I didn't expect Mother's Day to begin with a sentence that would rattle every quiet corner of my heart. One moment, I was smoothing the front of my dress, steadying myself for a warm afternoon with my only child, and the next, his voice carried a weight I'd never heard before. Sometimes life doesn't knock gently, sometimes it flings the door wide open without warning, leaving you standing in the draft of truth you never asked for. I'd woken early, humming softly as sunlight crept across my kitchen counter. The morning felt gentle, almost shy, as if it were tiptoeing in with the promise of something tender. I gathered a small box of cornbread I'd baked before dawn, an old family recipe that had soothed storms in our home long before my son ever dreamed of success. I thought the day would be simple: shared stories, warm hugs, maybe a quiet laugh. I felt a trembling kind of hope working its way through me, and for a minute I let myself believe everything was still the way it used to be. But that belief lasted only until he asked the question that stopped me cold. If you're still here with me, tell me what city you're watching from. Every comment you leave feels like another step we take together in this story. And if this one touched your heart, tap the like button so more people can hear it too. Now, before I take you deeper into what happened, let me introduce myself properly. Folks call me Grandma Nell, a woman in her early 70s whose bones may creak a little but whose spirit still walks tall. I've lived long enough to earn these stories, I've survived enough to share them with you. And this one, well, it still shakes me. Let me take you back to the moment everything changed. Do you like the 5,000 Clara gives you? Those were the words, soft, almost careless, yet they scattered my breath like loose feathers in a storm. I froze right there in his doorway, the cornbread warm against my palms. For a heartbeat, the world tilted, almost as if someone had quietly shifted the ground beneath me. The smell of fresh lilies drifted from the living room, but even their sweetness couldn't steady me. I blinked, unsure if I'd heard him right. The question didn't sound cruel nor suspicious. It was casual, like he was only asking if I enjoyed a new pair of slippers or a little treat someone had sent me. My hands trembled. A soft ah slipped from my lips before I could trap it. 5,000, what money? Who had been giving me anything? I forced a smile, those automatic, motherly gestures you learn over a lifetime of swallowing confusion. What did you say, sweetheart? My voice barely made it out, trembling like a weak flame touched by wind. He looked at me with easy confidence, the kind that comes from not knowing a truth has gone missing. The allowance, he said. Clara sends it to you every month. You never mentioned it, so I just assumed you were saving it. Allowance. Every month, saving it. A warmth crawled up the back of my neck, the kind that's not embarrassment but a quiet, rising alarm. My pulse thudded inside my ears, yet everything around me felt too still, too perfect, like the world was trying to hold its breath. I opened my mouth, but words hid from me. My tongue felt heavy, my throat tight, and all I could hear was the faint ticking of a clock in the background, slicing the silence into tiny, painful pieces. I had never received $1 from that woman, not one. A soft sigh trembled out of me and my eyes burned, not from tears yet, but from the sudden sting of disbelief. A wave of something sharp washed through my chest. I didn't know if it was worry, sadness, or the first flicker of something far colder. He stepped forward, reaching for the container in my hands as if nothing strange had passed between us. I watched him take it, watched his smile, carefree, trusting, unaware of the shadow building behind the moment. And behind that smile, I felt a truth rising like a warning. Someone had lied, not once, not by accident, not in passing. For years, I stood there inhaling the faint cinnamon from the cornbread now sitting in his hands, and every breath filled me with a deeper ache. My heartbeat fluttered uneven, and in that unsteady rhythm, a question scratched at my thoughts. Why would Clara want him to believe she'd been sending me anything? I swallowed hard, the air thick inside my lungs. A soft awe escaped me, too quiet to be noticed. Something in my chest tightened, like an old knot pulling itself awake. I'd come to celebrate a holiday meant to honor love and truth and sacrifice. Instead, I'd tripped into a quiet disaster disguised as a simple question. And the worst part, he genuinely believed it. His sincerity cut deeper than the lie. I tried to steady myself by glancing around the room, polished floors, soft cream curtains, a painting shimmering in delicate gold. His home glowed with comfort, safety, success. A life he'd built with ambition and sweat. A life I'd cheered him toward every step of the way. But standing there, I felt a faint shiver run along my arms as though I was suddenly an unwelcome shadow in a place I once helped him reach. My throat tightened further. "Honey," I whispered, "can you tell me more about that?" He smiled again, open, easy, trusting. "Sure, Mama, Clara handles all the transfers. She said she didn't want you worrying about anything. She wanted to help make things easier for you." Right then, something inside me cracked quietly, painfully. Because if there's one person on this earth who has never wanted life to be easier for me, it's her. I felt the ache deepen, pulling at memories I tried not to revisit. And as he kept talking, unaware of the storm forming inside me, something cold slid down my spine. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a secret. A carefully tended one. And someone had worked very hard to keep it alive. His voice kept drifting through the room, but all I could hear was the faint ringing in my ears, the kind that comes when your heart senses danger before your mind fully catches up. I found myself standing there, still half in the doorway, while he walked toward the dining table to set down the cornbread. The moment felt stretched, almost suspended in a strange, fragile silence. And somehow, I already knew this conversation wasn't going to be a small misunderstanding we'd laugh about later. No, this felt like the kind of truth that tilts your world and refuses to let it settle again. I forced myself to take a slow breath, letting the warmth of the room wrap around me, even though the air felt thin. I didn't want him to see the shiver running along my arms, so I pressed my hands together tightly. Something soft, almost like a trembling slipped out of me before I could stop it. I hoped he didn't notice. He turned around, cheerful, comfortable, utterly unaware of the storm rising inches behind him. "Sit down, Mama," he said, gesturing toward the chair across from him. "I want to show you something. Clara keeps everything so organized." Those words carried their own sting, organized like someone who planned their lies neatly, filed them away, tied them up with a ribbon of false kindness. But I followed him anyway, my steps slow, each one sinking a little deeper into the carpet as though the floor wanted to hold onto the weight of my hesitation. I sat down, folding the edge of my dress over my knees, hoping the fabric could muffle the trembling I felt inside. "What did she tell you exactly?" I whispered. My voice was thin but steady enough. He pulled out his phone with a proud smile, as if he were about to show me a photo of a new car or a vacation he'd planned. My chest tightened. I didn't want to see anything, not if it meant watching proof of a lie someone crafted behind my back. "This," he said gently, tapping his screen before turning it toward me. My breath hitched. There on his banking app, clear as day, sat a neat little row of outgoing transfers labeled under Clara's name. Monthly, consistent, tagged. For Mom, and oh, the cruelty of it. Whoever crafted this lie hadn't just whispered it, they built it with precision. They let it grow roots. They watered it. A soft "oh" fluttered out of me, trembling at the edges. He smiled proudly, like he expected gratitude, joy, maybe a sparkle of relief. "See, Mama, she's been doing this for almost 2 years. She said she didn't want you struggling. She wanted to give back." Give back. Mercy, if only he knew. My hands tightened on the edge of the chair. I felt the faint tremor of something bitter slip under my tongue. "Honey," I said carefully, "have you ever asked her if I said anything about these transfers?" He blinked at me. Confusion crossed his face for the first time. "No, why would I? You're always so grateful about anything we do." Grateful. If he only knew how often I sat alone at night, wondering why his wife barely spoke to me, why holidays felt colder, why distance replaced warmth. I leaned back, letting my eyes drift toward the window. Outside, a small breeze nudged the trees, their leaves shimmering like they were whispering secrets the world wasn't ready for. I wished the truth was as gentle as that breeze. Instead, it felt like a storm tightening its grip inside my ribs. There was no way to tiptoe through this without stepping on something sharp. "Honey," I murmured, "I need to tell you something." My throat tightened again, but I pushed through it. I've never received any money. Silence. Heavy, sudden, almost humming with shock. He stared at me, his jaw barely moving. What? I said, I repeated softly. I've never received a single dollar from her. Not one. A whisper slipped out of me, almost a trembling awe, as though my breath carried the weight of 2 years of confusion. His eyes widened and the brightness in them flickered. Mama, that's not funny. I'm not joking. He blinked rapidly, like the thought was too wild to settle in his mind. His fingers curled around his phone. I could see the tension building, the disbelief turning into something sharper. But the transfers, look at them. She said she sends them to your account. She even said you thanked her multiple times. A cold wave rolled down my spine. Thanked her for something I never received, something she never gave. No, I whispered, I never said such a thing. The room shifted then, not physically but emotionally, like the air changed shape. His face drained of color just slightly and he let out a strained breath. She told me you were trying to be discreet, that you didn't want me to feel embarrassed, that she was helping you. Embarrassed? Lord, this lie had branches. My heart thudded against my ribs, heavy and uneven. I felt a faint trembling hum rise in my chest, the kind that comes when truth and fear collide. He stood up slowly, pacing a few steps before turning back toward me. Mama, are you sure? Are you absolutely sure you've never received anything? No transfers, no envelopes, no messages? Nothing, I said firmly, not in any form. He pressed a hand to his forehead, exhaling sharply. This doesn't make sense? Oh, but it did. It made far too much sense. I had felt this distance for years, like someone quietly placing bricks between us until the wall grew too tall to see over. Every canceled invitation, every cold greeting, every time Clara looked at me like I was an unwelcome visitor in my own child's life. This wasn't an accident. This was orchestrated. I could almost hear the faint cracking of his trust as he processed it piece by piece. He looked at me again, his eyes darkening with something deeper. Mama, if she didn't send you the money, then where has it been going? That question hung between us, trembling like a loose wire sparking in the dark. I swallowed hard. A soft, shaky sigh slipped from my chest. There's only one person who can answer that. His expression hardened, the first hint of anger glinting behind his usually calm eyes. I think, he said slowly, voice tightening, it's time I talked to Clara. In that moment, I felt it, the beginning of a break. A quiet fracture forming in a story someone had tried to bury, and something inside me whispered. This was only the start. The scent of warm vanilla drifted from the candles on the counter, soft and sweet, yet it did nothing to settle the rising unease tightening inside my chest. I watched him pace the room, each step heavier than the last, like the floor was absorbing the weight of his thoughts. The air felt too still, almost thick, as though the truth we'd uncovered had sucked the warmth right out of the house. Even the sunlight peeking in through the curtains seemed dimmer, hesitant, as if it didn't want to witness what came next. Honey, I murmured, my voice trembling with worry, sit down for a moment. Just breathe. He didn't hear me at first. His mind was somewhere far from that living room. When he finally dropped onto the chair opposite mine, the faint thud echoed through the quiet space. His hands were clasped together, knuckles pale, and his gaze was fixed on the floor. A shaky huh escaped him, barely a whisper, and it pierced me deeper than any shouted anger could have. I trusted her, he said softly. I trusted every word. Pain flickered across his face, and I felt something inside me twist. This was my son, my baby, who'd grown into a man who built an empire with his bare hands. He could handle a boardroom full of executives without blinking, yet here he was, struggling to understand the deceit sewn into his own home. He looked up at me then, his eyes shadowed. Mama, why would she lie? Why would she say all this? I hesitated, trying to find gentle words for a truth that wasn't gentle at all. Sometimes, I whispered, a person tells one lie and then another until the truth becomes something they're afraid to let loose. His jaw tightened. Afraid of what? I leaned back in my chair, letting out a trembling sigh. Afraid it'll expose who they really are. For a moment, neither of us moved. The only sound was the soft hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen and the faint rustle of curtains brushing against the window. Then he stood again, slowly this time like a man preparing to walk into a fire. "I need answers," he said, voice firm though pain still cracked through it. "I'm calling her." His fingers hovered over his phone, shaking slightly. Before he pressed the call button, he looked at me again. "Mama, what if she tells me something different? What if she says you're confused, or lying, or mistaken? What if she twists it?" I felt a small sting of sadness ripple through me and a quiet "oh" slipped out. "Honey, the truth doesn't need decorating. Just tell her what you told me, that you had a simple question. Let her speak first. That's how you find the gaps." He swallowed hard, nodded, and finally hit call. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times. Then her voice answered, bright and cheerful, as if she were starring in a life untouched by deceit. "Hey love, everything good?" He didn't return the cheer. "Where are you?" he asked, his tone steady but thin. "I'm in the car," she replied. "Why? Is something wrong?" "I need to ask you something," he said. A pause, a small one, too small for guilt, but just long enough for someone searching for the right mask to put on. "Sure," she said casually. "Go ahead." He glanced at me before continuing. "I asked my mom today if she was comfortable with the money you've been sending. She looked confused, really confused." Another pause, a longer pause, then a soft, nervous laugh. "What do you mean? You told me you've been sending her 5,000 every month," he said. "You told me she wanted it discreet. You told me she thanked you." She began, but he cut her off. "She says she's never received anything." Silence. The kind of silence that drips rather than sits. Heavy, slow, thick with something sour. Then Clara's voice returned, smaller, tighter. Maybe it didn't go through. Maybe there was a banking issue. "For 22 months?" he asked sharply. A thin sigh escaped her, though not one of remorse, more like someone irritated that their performance had been interrupted. "Maybe she forgot," she said. "She's older. Sometimes older people—" I felt heat crawl up the back of my neck, but before the sting of her words could settle, he snapped, "Don't you dare talk about her like that." The force in his voice startled even him, and he ran a hand through his hair. "Clara, stop. Just tell me the truth. Where has the money been going?" "I told you," she said quickly. "To her." "No," he said, firmer than before. "Try again." A shaky breath came through the speaker, then another and another. As if she were stalling for time, digging through excuses that had already begun to crumble. I can explain," she whispered. "Then do it." "I didn't want her to feel entitled," she said suddenly. "I didn't want her thinking she could." "Entitled?" he repeated, disbelief cracking through each syllable. "The woman who raised me worked double shifts, sacrificed everything. That woman—" I could hear her swallow. Her voice dropped to a small, defensive whine. "You know how she is." A tremor ran down my spine. A quiet ah slipped out of me, as though the breath carried 2 years of buried hurt. He closed his eyes, shaking his head. "What do you mean by that?" "She's always emotional," she said. "Always making things bigger than they are. I didn't want her depending on us." There it was, not remorse, not confusion, a quiet confession wrapped in judgment. He drew in a sharp breath. "So you kept the money?" She began. "Just say it," he demanded. Silence again. Then, "Yes." That single word turned the air icy. He froze, I froze. Even the room seemed to fall into a stunned stillness. "You took it," he said softly, voice breaking. "You took what was meant for my mother." She exhaled sharply, as if he were the unreasonable one. "It wasn't like that. I used some of it for the house, for us, for yourself," he whispered. No reply. He lowered the phone. His hands trembled as he pressed it against his thigh, letting the call disconnect without another word. When he finally looked at me, his eyes were glassy, wounded, as though something inside him had shattered so quietly he didn't realize it until afterward. "Mama," he said, voice barely holding itself together. "What else has she lied about?" A chill swept through me, and a trembling breath slipped from my lips. Because the truth was, if someone can lie about money, they can lie about anything. And deep inside, I felt a terrible heaviness settle in my chest. Something told me the worst lie was still waiting. Have you ever wondered how it feels to watch the person you love the most realize someone has been lying to them all along? That moment, frozen in time, brittle and sharp, was exactly what I felt in my chest as I looked at my son. His hands were clenched into fists on his lap, knuckles white, and his jaw trembled slightly as if his mind and heart were wrestling a storm inside him. I could see the gears turning behind his eyes, trying to process the impossible. That his wife, the woman he trusted most, had been deceiving him and me. A soft sigh escaped me, almost an instinctive awe, the kind that comes when you can't protect the people you love from the cruelty of others. My legs felt heavy and I pressed my palms into my knees, willing myself to stay steady. I wanted to reach out, to touch him, to reassure him that some things were still real. But how could I when the foundation of what he thought he knew had been quietly ripped away? He stared down at the carpet, then back at me, searching my face for answers. "Mama, I can't believe this," he murmured. "All this time and I just—" His voice broke. He inhaled sharply, forcing the words out. "I just assumed you'd been getting it, that it made things easier for you." Easier. The word hung in the room, bitter and hollow. It wasn't easier. It had never been easier. I swallowed hard, letting a soft hum escape me, trying to steady the whirlwind of emotion threatening to spill over. "Honey, I didn't even know about it," I said, my voice trembling with the weight of truth. "I never received a penny, never." His eyes widened again, disbelief etched across every line of his face. "Then she lied?" The word sounded like a curse as it slipped from his lips. "Yes," I whispered. "And she did it so carefully, so quietly, that even you believed it without question." He ran a hand through his hair, pacing the room in a slow, almost ritualistic way. "Why, Mama? Why would she do this?" His voice cracked, teetering on the edge of anger and heartbreak. I trusted her completely." I let out a faint sigh, almost a soft weeping sound that I couldn't hold back. "Sometimes, sweetheart, people hide behind lies to control what they want. They think the truth is inconvenient. They think it's easier to twist reality than to face it honestly." He stopped pacing, turning to me with eyes filled with a mix of sorrow and fury. "Control? You mean she wanted to control me, or you?" His voice trembled, almost a whisper. "Both." A shiver ran down my spine. I think she wanted to control the way we saw each other. To create distance, to build walls between us while keeping you believing everything was fine." He sank back into the chair, burying his face in his hands. "All these years, all the little things that didn't make sense, it was her. She's been manipulating everything." I nodded slowly, the soft ache in my chest deepening. "Yes, honey, and now you see it too." A faint, shaky sigh escaped me, like a breath I'd been holding for far too long. "It's painful, I know, but at least now the truth is out." He lifted his head, his eyes glassy. "I trusted her with everything, our life, our home, my mom." His voice caught again. "And she made me doubt you?" The room felt suffocating, thick with unspoken words and raw emotion. I could feel the weight of years pressing down on us, years of quiet manipulation, subtle lies, and carefully crafted deception. A soft awe trembled out of me, more from sadness than anything else. I wanted to hold him, to comfort him, but I also knew he needed this space to process the betrayal that had reached into the heart of our family. "Now," I whispered, "you have a choice. You can confront her, ask the hard questions, demand the truth, or you can let this lie continue to fester. But honey, I think it's time we stopped letting fear and deceit run our lives." His jaw tightened. "I'm going to get answers. I can't let this continue." His voice was firmer now, tempered with determination, though his hands still shook slightly. "I have to know everything." I reached out and placed a hand over his. "I'm here with you," I said softly. "We'll face it together." A quiet, trembling hum escaped me, the kind that carries both sorrow and resolve. "No more secrets, no more lies," he exhaled, leaning back in the chair. I never thought she'd go this far. I never imagined someone could lie like this, and about something so personal, so intimate." "People lie about what matters most," I murmured. "They lie about money, about love, about respect, because they think it gives them power. But it doesn't, honey. Power comes from truth, not deception. A pause filled the room, long and heavy. The kind of pause where memories of quiet betrayals, small manipulations, and hidden agendas rise uninvited. My chest ached, a soft sigh slipping past my lips. I thought of the long years of birthday cards ignored, phone calls unanswered, subtle digs, and veiled criticisms that had always felt slightly off. Now I understood. It had all been part of the same story, one carefully written by someone intent on keeping us apart. He looked at me again, his eyes hard but glistening. "I can't believe I didn't see it sooner," he said. "I can't believe I let her come between us." I smiled faintly, though it was tinged with sadness. "It's not your fault, sweetheart. Lies are tricky. They're designed to confuse, to create doubt where there should be trust. You've just been human." He let out a shaky laugh, almost a soft chuckle, mingled with relief and frustration. "Human? Yeah, I guess that's true." I felt a warmth bloom in my chest, small but real, as though hope had begun to creep in despite the ache. "We'll get through this," I said, together. "And maybe, just maybe, the truth will finally set everything straight." He nodded slowly, still processing, still shaken, but I could see a spark of determination in his eyes. That spark told me he wouldn't rest until the deceit was fully exposed. And somehow, even in the midst of this pain, I felt a small flicker of comfort. Because now the lies were no longer invisible and the light of truth had begun to pierce the darkness. "Why would you do this?" my son demanded, voice trembling as though every word weighed a ton. I could hear the edge of hurt threading through it, the kind that comes when someone you love realizes betrayal is not just a mistake, but deliberate. The room seemed smaller suddenly, tighter, filled with the echoes of unanswered questions and the shadow of someone else's deception. I swallowed hard, a quiet ah slipping out before I could stop it. My throat felt raw from holding back years of confusion and worry. I wanted to tell him everything, to explain every late-night phone call that went unanswered, every holiday he had spent wondering why I wasn't there. But how could I make him understand a deception so carefully constructed, so layered, that even I hadn't seen the full picture until now? He ran a hand through his hair, pacing slowly. "I trusted her. I trusted that she cared about you, about me, about us, and now I don't even know what to believe." His words tore through me, and I pressed my palms against my knees, willing myself to stay calm. I felt the familiar sting of helplessness, the tight knot in my chest that forms when you want to shield someone from a harsh truth but cannot. "Honey," I whispered, "sometimes people lie to control what they can't have. Sometimes it's not about you or me, it's about their own fears." He stopped pacing and turned toward me, eyes wide. "But Mama, she used your name to cover herself, to make me think you were grateful, to make me believe the lie. Do you understand what that feels like, that she could manipulate us both so easily?" I nodded slowly, letting out a soft sigh. "I know, sweetheart, and it hurts more than you can imagine. I've felt it for years, in quiet moments, in missed birthdays, in cold looks that didn't match words. But now we can confront it." He sank back into the chair, pressing his face into his hands for a moment. I watched him struggle to process, the silence between us almost unbearable. I could feel the room holding its breath with us, the weight of revelation pressing down like a heavy fog. A quiet weeping sound, soft, almost imperceptible, escaped me, and I hoped he noticed it not as weakness but as shared pain. "I just don't understand how someone could lie like this," he said finally, voice raw and low. "How someone could hide the truth for so long, thinking it wouldn't matter, thinking it wouldn't come back to bite them. They do it because they think it gives them control," I said, my voice trembling slightly. "Because they believe the truth is inconvenient or dangerous to their plans. But control built on lies is fragile, honey. It always breaks." He exhaled sharply, a shaky breath that carried both frustration and sorrow. "Fragile," he repeated. I thought we were, I don't know, I thought we were a family. I trusted her completely." "And you were right too," I said softly. "You were right to trust her until she proved otherwise. That doesn't mean your judgment was wrong. It means someone else made choices that were cruel, selfish, and deliberate." He ran his fingers through his hair again, letting out a small, bitter laugh. Cruel, selfish, that's one way to put it. But Mama, it feels bigger than that. It feels like a lifetime of manipulation, a history rewritten to suit her narrative. I nodded, feeling the weight of every word. Sometimes when people lie, they try to rewrite reality to make themselves look better, to make others doubt what they know. And often it works for a while until the truth finds its way to the surface. He looked up at me then, eyes glistening with unshed tears. I don't even know where to start. How do I confront her without it becoming a war? Start with honesty, I said gently. You have the facts now, you know the truth. Ask the questions you need answered. And remember, stay calm. Don't let her manipulations push you into anger. You want clarity, not chaos. He took a deep, shuddering breath as if trying to steady himself. Clara has always been subtle, the kind of subtle that hides a knife behind a smile. But now I see it. I see the way she's tried to control the narrative. I see how she's kept us apart. A quiet hum escaped me, a soft tremble of awe and sorrow. Yes, honey. And it's painful, yes, but at least now you can choose how to respond. You can decide what kind of family we want moving forward. He nodded slowly, running his hands down his face. I never thought she would stoop this low. Using my mom, using you, I can't even. His voice faltered, cracking slightly. I can't understand why anyone would do that. People do terrible things when they're afraid, I said softly. Afraid of losing control, afraid of being exposed, afraid of not being enough, and she was all of those things. He leaned back in his chair, rubbing at his temples. And now the question is, what do I do next? How do I protect you and myself from someone so deceitful? I reached out, placing a hand gently on his arm. Step by step, I said. Ask questions, demand honesty, and don't let fear guide your actions. You have the power now, honey, because the truth is with us. He looked at me then, determination creeping into his eyes through the haze of hurt. Step by step, he repeated. We'll get through this. We have to, for the sake of what's real. For the sake of our family. A small, trembling sigh escaped me, mixed with relief and fear. Yes, sweetheart, I whispered. For the sake of truth. And in that moment, despite the pain, the anger, the disbelief, I felt the tiniest glimmer of hope. A fragile light that maybe, just maybe, we could begin to rebuild what had been hidden in lies for far too long. I froze mid-step, my hand hovering over the door handle, because in that moment I realized there was something else, something I hadn't yet uncovered. My son's eyes were fixed on me, wide and searching, as if he could feel the storm of thoughts swirling in my mind. The room seemed suddenly smaller, charged with a quiet electricity, as though the very walls were holding their breath for what was about to be revealed. A soft, trembling sigh escaped me, the kind that carried both dread and the faintest flicker of resolve. He leaned forward in his chair, hands clasped tightly together, knuckles white. Mama, tell me, is there more I should know? His voice was calm on the surface, but laced with an edge of raw fear, the kind that comes when the mind anticipates a truth it dreads. I swallowed hard, my throat tight, a soft O slipping past my lips before I could stop it. Yes, I whispered, my voice barely audible. There's something else, something I've suspected for a long time but never had proof of until now. His brow furrowed. What is it? I took a slow breath, trying to steady the shaking in my hands. It's not just about the money, the allowance, the deception, it's bigger than that, much bigger. He leaned back, eyes narrowing as if trying to read between the lines of my words. Bigger? How much bigger? The tremor in his voice betrayed his unease. Mama, please tell me. A quiet shiver ran through me. I could feel the weight of years pressing down, all the little hints, the subtle manipulations, the cold silences that didn't make sense until now. It's about the way she's been controlling what you believe about me, I said. She's been rewriting history, planting doubts, twisting memories, making you question things that never needed questioning. He shook his head slowly. No, it can't be that bad. His voice was tight, almost a whisper. I can't believe she'd go that far. I let out a soft sigh, almost a hum of sorrow. Honey, she did, and now you see it for yourself. My eyes watered, though I tried to blink it back. All those years of cold distance, of subtle slights, of moments that didn't feel right, it was her hand guiding them, shaping them to keep us apart. He ran a hand through his hair, pacing once across the room. I can't even imagine how she could be so calculating. I trusted her. I thought she loved me and you. His voice cracked slightly. I don't understand how someone could use love as a weapon. A soft, trembling sigh escaped me. Because, sweetheart, some people see relationships as tools. They measure loyalty, manipulate emotions, and use what should be sacred to get what they want. His eyes darkened and a low hum escaped him, a mix of frustration and disbelief. Mama, I trusted her to be honest, to be kind, and now I feel like everything I believed in her was a lie. I reached out, placing a hand over his. It wasn't your fault, honey. Lies are tricky. They're crafted to look like truth, and even the most loving people can fall for them. He drew in a shaky breath, closing his eyes. I feel like I've been blind for so long. That all these little things, all the signs I ignored, were actually warnings. They were, I said softly, but it's not too late. You still have the chance to confront her, to get answers, to protect yourself and our family. You have the truth now. He opened his eyes, looking at me with a mixture of determination and sorrow. I don't want to fight her, he said quietly, but I can't let her lies go unchallenged. Then we'll do it carefully, I said, my voice trembling slightly. Step by step, with calm, with clarity, we'll face this together. A long pause filled the room, heavy with anticipation. Outside, the wind rustled the trees, brushing against the windows like a whisper of warning. I could feel the tension tighten in my chest, the quiet dread of knowing that a confrontation was inevitable, that truths long buried were about to surface. Suddenly, the phone buzzed in his pocket. He pulled it out, eyes scanning the screen. I could see his hands shake, though he tried to steady them. The message was short, almost casual. We need to talk, now. His lips parted slightly, a soft gasp escaping him. Mama, it's her. His voice was tight, controlled, but the tremor betrayed the storm inside him. She wants to meet. She says she has an explanation. I felt my stomach drop, a low, anxious hum threading through my chest. Do you think it's safe to meet her, or is this another manipulation? I whispered, my own fear slipping into my words. He shook his head slowly. I don't know, but I have to hear it. I need to know the truth. His jaw tightened and he took a deep breath. Even if it hurts, even if it changes everything. I reached for his hand, gripping it gently. Then we'll face it together. Whatever comes, honey, we'll face it. The room fell silent again, but the tension hadn't eased. In fact, it seemed thicker, heavier, like the calm before a storm. I could feel my pulse pounding, a faint shiver running down my spine. Something told me the next few hours would determine the course of our family, and the truths revealed could either bring us closer or shatter us completely. And as we sat there, holding hands in the quiet living room, I couldn't shake the nagging thought. What if the explanation she offers isn't the truth at all? A soft, trembling sigh escaped me. The moment stretched, a fragile pause in the middle of a storm that was only just beginning. The sunlight poured through the tall windows, casting long shadows across the polished wooden floor, yet even that warmth couldn't reach the chill creeping through my chest. I watched my son sit rigidly on the edge of the couch, phone clutched in his hand like a lifeline, and I could feel the tension coil in the room like an invisible snake. Every corner seemed to hold its breath, every surface charged with unspoken fears. A soft, trembling awe slipped from me as I tried to anchor myself, to remain steady, to be the calm he needed, even though my own heart was racing. He stared at the phone screen, eyes darting back and forth as if expecting it to change its message, but it didn't. The simple text we'd both feared now felt like a ticking bomb in his hands. We need to talk. Now, the words were small, innocuous even, but the weight behind them was massive. I felt a shiver crawl up my spine as I realized this conversation would finally put everything on the line. A quiet sigh escaped me. Honey, I whispered, trying to sound reassuring, though my voice trembled. Whatever she says, remember what we know. Don't let her words shake you. You have the truth already. He looked at me, eyes darkened with stormy emotion. I know, Mama, but what if she tries to twist it? What if she spins another story so convincing that I start doubting myself? His fingers tightened around the phone, knuckles white. I shook my head gently, a soft O vibrating through me. Then you ask again, you follow the facts, not the story she tells. Lies can only survive when people let them. You know what's real, you know what's true. He exhaled slowly as though trying to calm the whirlwind of thoughts raging inside him. Okay, okay, I can do this, I have to. His voice was firm now, but under it I could hear the raw tremor of lingering hurt. The doorbell rang, sharp, insistent. My stomach dropped, a low hum of apprehension threading through me. She's here, I murmured, almost to myself. Are you ready? He swallowed hard, rising from the couch. I have to be. His jaw tightened and a soft sigh escaped him, the kind that carries equal parts fear and resolve. Together we moved toward the door, each step heavier than the last, weighted with anticipation. As he opened the door, Clara stood there, smiling, polished, composed. But there was something in her eyes, a flicker of tension she couldn't hide. A faint shiver ran down my spine, a soft, trembling awe escaping me as I realized how delicate this moment truly was. Every word, every movement could tip the balance. Hi, she said, her voice steady, almost cheerful, though her fingers clutched the edge of her purse with a subtle tightness. Thanks for seeing me. He didn't smile. He just stepped aside to let her in. We need to talk, he said simply. Everything, now, she nodded, glancing briefly at me, and my heart skipped. Did she know I'd been listening? Did she suspect that the veil of lies she'd built over the years was about to crumble in front of her? A soft sigh escaped me. The room seemed to constrict, the walls pressing in, the air vibrating with tension. Clara's eyes flicked to my son, then to me, and for a fraction of a second I thought I saw hesitation, fear. But then her composure returned, polished and controlled, as if she had rehearsed this moment countless times. You know why I'm here, my son said, voice steady but cold. I need the truth, about the money, about everything you've said about my mother. She hesitated. A subtle shift in her posture, a flicker in her expression, a quiet hum of hesitation, but she recovered quickly. I didn't mean to hurt anyone, she said softly, almost too softly. Didn't mean to, he echoed, incredulous. Clara, this has been going on for years. I trusted you, I believed you, and you lied. Why? Her gaze flicked to me and a chill ran through me, a faint trembling awe slipping from my lips. The silence that followed was heavy, charged, the kind that presses in from all sides and leaves your heart pounding in your chest. I thought I was helping, she murmured finally, her voice small, vulnerable, yet calculated. I thought keeping it quiet, keeping the money from her, would protect you. Protect all of us. Protect us, my son repeated, disbelief cracking through every word. By lying to me, by taking what belongs to my mother, that's your idea of protection? His voice was louder now, rising with the weight of betrayal. She swallowed, a thin, anxious hum escaping her. I didn't know any other way. My heart ached as I watched this unfold. The words she spoke, the justifications, were sharp and cold beneath their trembling exterior. But the truth had a gravity she couldn't hide. I felt a soft, trembling sigh escape me as I realized. The web she had spun was unraveling, thread by thread, right before our eyes. My son's jaw tightened, eyes dark and glistening. You made me doubt my own mother. You tried to rewrite years of our lives with your lies, and now we're left to pick up the pieces. She swallowed again, silent this time. I could see the tension in her shoulders, the faint twitch in her hands, the subtle tremor in her calm facade. The truth had a way of exposing everything, didn't it? Even the carefully rehearsed lies. And in that moment I realized. Whatever came next, whatever explanations or excuses she offered, nothing could erase the damage done. The fracture had formed, and it would take far more than words to heal it. A soft sigh escaped me, a quiet hum of sorrow threading through the room, and I knew deep in my bones that the confrontation was only just beginning. She was standing in the middle of the living room, hands slightly trembling, eyes darting between my son and me. The tension was so thick I could almost feel it pressing against my skin. I held my breath, a soft, involuntary sigh escaping me as I realized we were teetering on the edge of something irreversible. Every second stretched like a taut wire, vibrating with the weight of long-hidden truths. Clara, my son said sharply, his voice low but tense, start from the beginning. Why didn't you send the money to me? Why lie for almost 2 years? She swallowed, a tiny quiver of a hum passing through her lips, then stepped back slightly. I thought it was better this way, she murmured. I thought I was protecting you, protecting all of us. My son's eyes narrowed. Protecting me? Protecting me from what? From the woman who raised me, from my own mother? His voice shook, but anger simmered beneath the surface, hot and dangerous. Do you understand what that feels like? To know someone you trusted has been hiding the truth? A soft, trembling sigh escaped me. The room felt suffocating, walls closing in as I realized just how fragile everything had become. My son's pain was palpable, radiating outward, pulling at the corners of my heart. I didn't want you to feel pressured, she said, almost whispering. I didn't want her to expect things. I thought I was making the right choice. Choice, he repeated incredulously, the word sharp as a blade. You think lying, taking what wasn't yours, twisting reality, that's a choice anyone could admire? She flinched at his tone, and I felt a soft, almost imperceptible gasp escape me. The tension was unbearable. I could see the way her carefully constructed composure was cracking, revealing glimpses of fear and uncertainty beneath. You have to understand, she continued, her voice trembling now. I didn't want to hurt anyone. I didn't want to create conflict. I thought I was keeping peace. A bitter laugh escaped my son, short and incredulous. Peace, by lying, by keeping my mother in the dark. Do you even hear yourself? I felt a low, soft sigh escape me, a mix of sorrow and disbelief. I wanted to reach out to soothe the storm raging inside my son, but I also knew this was a confrontation he needed to navigate. She had created it, now she had to face it. Clara, he said finally, voice firmer, I need the full truth, not excuses, not half-truths, everything. Where has the money been? What else have you kept from us? Her eyes dropped, and a quiet hum of nervousness escaped her lips. She hesitated, biting her lower lip, the mask of confidence slipping further. I used some of it for us, for the house, bills, things I thought we needed. I didn't mean for it to hurt her. I didn't think she'd notice. I felt my chest tighten, a soft, trembling sigh escaping me. The audacity, the coldness beneath her trembling words, it made my heart ache. 2 years of generosity stolen, concealed behind a thin veil of self-righteousness. My son's fists clenched at his sides. Do you understand what this means? That she's been lying to both of us? That everything I believed, everything I thought was real was a lie? She swallowed, silent this time, eyes flicking to mine as if seeking permission to justify herself. I felt a faint gasp slip past me. This was the moment I'd feared, the exposure of the truth, raw and unfiltered. I thought I was helping, she murmured finally, almost pleading. I thought keeping it quiet, keeping it hidden was better for everyone. He shook his head, disbelief and anger etched into every line of his face. Helping, by taking from my mother, by manipulating reality to fit your narrative. That's not help, that's control, pure control. A soft, almost involuntary sigh escaped me. The room was silent, save for the faint hum of tension that seemed to vibrate through the walls. I watched them, my son's eyes dark with hurt, Clara's hands trembling, and I knew something fundamental had shifted. The lies were no longer hidden. The truth had broken through. You've changed everything, my son whispered, voice low but resolute. And now I don't know if we can ever go back to the way things were. She flinched, but no words came. The room held its breath, heavy and oppressive, as if the very air was waiting for what would come next. I stepped forward, placing a hand gently on my son's arm. Honey, you have the right to be angry. You have the right to ask questions. But remember, truth has a power that lies never will. Whatever happens next, face it with honesty, with courage. That's the only way we can survive this. He nodded slowly, eyes never leaving Clara. I will, he said, determination threading through the tremor in his voice. But the truth, the real truth, is coming out tonight, and there's no going back after that. A quiet hum of apprehension escaped me, as if the walls themselves were whispering, warning us that the confrontation was far from over. The next few moments would decide everything. The balance of trust, the bonds of family, and whether the lies that had festered for years could finally be exposed, or if they would shatter us completely. Have you ever faced the moment when every truth you believed collapses at once? That is exactly where we were, standing in the living room, the air thick with tension, every heartbeat loud and uneven. My son's eyes were dark pools of hurt and disbelief, and Clara's hands fidgeted nervously, betraying the composure she so carefully clung to. A faint sigh escaped me, soft and trembling, as though my own chest carried the weight of years of deception. He spoke first, voice tight. "Clara, why did you lie to us for so long, about the money, about me, about everything?" She hesitated, then let out a soft hum like a nervous attempt to fill the silence. I thought I was protecting you, protecting our family," she murmured, but the conviction in her voice was fragile, cracking under the weight of our scrutiny. "Protecting us?" my son echoed sharply. "By hiding from me what should have been my decision? By controlling what I believed about my own mother?" A low, trembling sigh escaped me. The audacity of her actions left me aching in a quiet, bittersweet way. I wanted to reach out to my son, to offer reassurance, but I knew he needed to confront her, to hear the explanations, and to process the betrayal with his own mind. "She never wanted to hurt anyone," Clara continued, her voice softer now, almost pleading. I thought it was the best way to handle things without conflict. I didn't think it would spiral like this." A bitter laugh escaped my son, short and incredulous. "Spiral? Do you hear yourself? Do you understand what you've done? This isn't just a spiral, it's a web of lies that's been controlling our lives." I could feel the room vibrating with tension, a quiet hum threading through the air. My chest tightened, soft sighs slipping from me uncontrollably. The betrayal, subtle but deliberate, had left invisible scars that we were only now beginning to see. "You need to tell me the truth, Clara," my son said firmly. "No more excuses, no half-truths, I want to know everything. How much money was sent, how long, and why you never told me?" Her hands twisted nervously, fidgeting with the hem of her sleeve. I sent some. I wanted it to be helpful, not a burden, but some of it I kept. I used it for things I thought were important for us. I didn't realize it would hurt her or you." I felt a soft, trembling sigh escape me. The truth was out now, jagged and raw, but it was still a story shrouded in manipulation. The audacity of her words, of trying to justify theft and deception under the guise of care, left me quietly aghast. "You used my mother's money for what exactly?" my son demanded, voice rising slightly with the shock and disbelief threatening to spill over. "How dare you take what wasn't yours, twist it to suit your narrative, and make me question my own family?" Clara's eyes flicked to me, searching for something: pity, approval, forgiveness. But I only gave her the quiet, resolute gaze that carried both sorrow and the weight of truth. A soft hum of apprehension escaped me as I realized the enormity of the moment. The lies could no longer be hidden, but their consequences were only beginning to unfold. "I thought I was doing the right thing," she said softly, almost breaking now. "I didn't want conflict. I didn't want him to think badly of me. I just—" Her words faltered, incomplete, like a string cut before it could finish. "You were doing the wrong thing," my son said sharply, his voice controlled but taut with emotion. "You were manipulating the narrative, controlling what I could believe. You weren't protecting anyone, you were creating division. You tried to control our family and you failed." A quiet sigh escaped me, soft but heavy, filled with both sorrow and vindication. At last, the truth had been acknowledged and the weight of deception had begun to shift. Yet I knew this confrontation was far from over. The next steps would be critical, and the emotional fallout could reshape our family entirely. Clara's eyes welled up, and for a brief moment I thought I saw genuine remorse. I didn't mean to hurt anyone," she whispered, voice breaking. "I thought I was helping." "But you weren't," my son said firmly. "And now we have to figure out how to move forward with honesty. Or not at all." I felt my chest tighten, soft hums and sighs threading through me. This was the pivotal moment, the crossroads where deception met truth. And while I wished for healing, I also knew the fractures were deep and the road ahead would not be easy. The silence stretched, heavy and charged, as each of us sat with the enormity of what had been revealed. In that quiet, fragile pause, I realized the reckoning had begun and nothing would ever be the same again. I never thought a single question could feel like a punch to the chest, but when my son looked at me and said, "Mom, all these years, did she lie about everything?" It hit me harder than any betrayal I had imagined. My heart skipped, a low trembling sigh escaping me as the weight of realization pressed down. The room felt smaller, shadows stretching along the walls like silent witnesses to our unraveling lives. He ran a hand through his hair, pacing slowly, voice tight but controlled. Every conversation, every gift, every explanation she gave me was a lie. His eyes searched mine, desperate for confirmation, but I could barely speak. A soft, almost involuntary hum escaped me as I nodded. "Yes, honey," I whispered, voice trembling. Every single bit that mattered, she manipulated, twisted, and concealed. And I only just realized the full extent. His jaw clenched, and I saw the storm of emotions rippling through him: anger, disbelief, sorrow, and a deep, painful love. "I can't believe it," he said, soft but sharp. I thought she cared about us, about you. I trusted her completely, Mom, and now—" His voice broke slightly, raw with pain. I reached out, brushing a hand across his arm. "It's not your fault, sweetheart. Lies can deceive even the most loving hearts. We just have to face the truth now and decide what to do next." He exhaled sharply, pacing once more. "I have to know everything. Not just about the money, about the manipulation, the control, all of it. I can't just accept partial truths anymore." A quiet sigh escaped me, soft and trembling. The room seemed charged with tension, every second stretching longer, every silence filled with anticipation. "Ask," I whispered. "We have to peel back every layer, only then can we confront her fully." Clara, standing a few feet away, fidgeted nervously, shifting weight from one foot to the other. Her hands twitched slightly, betraying the calm facade she had tried to maintain. A faint, anxious hum escaped me as I observed her. I could feel the delicate thread of control she had wielded for so long fraying in the air between us. "You kept things from me, Mom?" my son asked, his voice low but intense. "Not just money, memories, events, everything that involved her control?" "Yes," I said softly, almost a whisper, letting the weight of each word settle in the room. I didn't know all the details, but I always suspected she was manipulating reality. Now we know just how much. He exhaled, rubbing his temples with one hand. "I trusted her to tell me the truth. I trusted her to respect both of us. And she used every opportunity to shape what I believed. Do you understand how that feels?" I nodded slowly, soft sigh escaping me. "I do, honey. It's betrayal, but it's also control. And now that we see it, we can act." His eyes darted to Clara, narrowing slightly. "She's been using us, Mom, using me, using you, and all this time I had no idea." She swallowed, letting out a trembling hum, eyes downcast. "I thought I was helping," she murmured. "I didn't mean for it to hurt anyone, I truly didn't." "Helping?" he repeated incredulously. "You call this helping? You lied to me, you manipulated my mother, you created a web of deception that nearly broke our family. That's not help, that's control, pure control." A soft sigh escaped me, trembling and low, as I realized the enormity of the confrontation unfolding. Every word, every gesture, every tremor in Clara's composure revealed how deeply the lies had been woven, and how fragile her carefully constructed image really was. I only wanted to keep the peace," she whispered, voice breaking, hands clasped tightly in front of her. "I thought if I kept certain things hidden, it would make life easier for everyone. But peace built on lies is fragile," my son said firmly, voice steady now, though still shadowed with hurt. "It never lasts, and now it's time for accountability. The truth must come out, all of it." A low hum escaped me, soft and trembling. I could see the shift in my son, the mix of sorrow, anger, and clarity that only comes when deception is finally exposed. I felt a flicker of hope, faint but undeniable, that perhaps the next steps could lead to healing, even if it would be painful. Clara's gaze met mine, a fleeting hint of fear and remorse. The mask she had worn for so long was slipping, revealing the person beneath, the one who had controlled, manipulated, and lied to protect her own narrative. I took a deep, shaky breath, whispering softly, "Now we face it together." And in that quiet, heavy moment, I realized the reckoning had begun and there was no turning back. Every secret, every lie, every manipulated memory was poised to surface, and nothing would ever feel the same again. I could feel my heart aching, a deep, almost hollow pain as I watched my son wrestle with the reality laid bare before him. There's a kind of sorrow that isn't loud or dramatic. It sits quietly in your chest, presses down on your ribs, and hums through your veins like a subtle, unrelenting weight. A soft, trembling sigh escaped me, almost instinctively, as I tried to steel myself for what was about to happen next. He looked at me, eyes glistening, and I could see the unspoken question there. How could this happen? How could someone I trusted so deeply betray me in this way? My throat tightened, a low, almost inaudible hum escaping me. I wanted to tell him that the world sometimes breaks in ways you never expect, that people, no matter how close, can hurt you with precision and patience. But words felt fragile compared to the truth stretching out in front of us. "Mom," he whispered, voice trembling slightly despite the strength he tried to project, "I can't believe how long she kept this from us. I trusted her. I believed her every word, and now it feels like my entire family was built on lies." I reached out, placing my hand gently on his arm. "Honey, sometimes the people we love make choices that hurt us. It doesn't make you wrong for trusting. It doesn't make your judgment flawed. It just means you were human and you gave love where it was deserved." He exhaled, a shaky breath that seemed to release some of the tension coiled inside him. I don't know how to move forward. How do you forgive someone who's manipulated not just me, but you as well?" I let out a soft sigh, a low hum threading through my chest. Forgiveness doesn't have to be immediate. Sometimes it starts with understanding, then honesty, then boundaries. And sometimes it starts with protecting yourself while the other person faces the consequences of their actions. He ran a hand through his hair, pacing slowly. "Consequences, yes, that's what she needs. But what about us? What about the trust she destroyed?" "Trust can be rebuilt," I said gently, "but only when truth is fully acknowledged. Only when honesty becomes the foundation, and only if you decide that some things are worth salvaging." His gaze shifted toward Clara, who stood frozen near the doorway. Her hands trembled slightly, her eyes wide, and for the first time I thought I saw the vulnerability behind her polished facade. She opened her mouth to speak, hesitated, and closed it again, as if she were afraid that every word might make things worse. "You need to hear me," my son said firmly, voice steady but edged with pain. "Every explanation, every detail, you need to be honest completely with both of us. No more hiding. No more half-truths." Clara swallowed, a faint trembling hum escaping her lips. I don't know where to start," she whispered. "I thought I was protecting us all." "Protecting," he repeated sharply. "By controlling the narrative, by making decisions for us that weren't yours to make, by stealing from your own mother-in-law." A low sigh escaped me, soft and almost reluctant. The audacity, the manipulation, the carefully constructed web of lies, it was all laid bare now. And yet, I couldn't deny the tiny flicker of hope that honesty might still pave the way toward clarity, even if it would take time to heal the fracture she had created. "I thought I was helping," Clara continued, voice breaking, hands twisting in front of her. "I didn't want conflict. I thought if I kept things hidden, it would make life easier. I never meant to hurt anyone." My son shook his head, exhaling slowly. "Helping by hurting, helping by deceiving, that's not help, Clara, that's control, and now we have to decide what happens next." A soft, trembling sigh escaped me. I watched as my son's gaze locked on her, not with rage, but with a mixture of sorrow, determination, and longing for the truth. He wasn't just confronting her for himself, he was confronting her for me, for the mother who had quietly suffered the weight of her manipulation. "I need clarity," he said quietly but firmly. I need to know everything, not just the money, not just the lies, but the intent, the planning, the choices. I need the full picture before I can decide if there's any path forward. Clara nodded slowly, swallowing again. I will tell you every detail, every choice. I just please understand I never meant for it to come to this. And now it has, my son said softly, voice taut with emotion, and we face it together. Whatever happens, we face it honestly and we let the truth guide us. A faint, trembling sigh escaped me. The room was still, heavy with the weight of revelations, but I felt a fragile sense of resolve threading through the tension. The confrontation had begun in earnest, and no matter how painful, the truth could no longer be hidden. I took a step closer to Clara, eyes meeting hers. Look, you need to be honest now. No more excuses, no more half measures. The truth is all that matters. She nodded, biting her lower lip, the tremor in her hands betraying the fear she couldn't hide. I understand, she whispered, voice quivering. And I'll do my best to tell everything. My son exhaled, running a hand over his face, a quiet hum of tension leaving him for the first time in hours. Then let's begin, he said. Every detail, every choice, every lie. It all comes out now. I felt a soft sigh escape me, almost like a release of the tension I'd been holding for years. The air was thick, heavy with the weight of truth, but also strangely alive. For the first time, there was a fragile possibility that honesty might heal what had been broken for so long. We stood there, three of us in the living room, trembling slightly, hearts heavy, minds racing, knowing that the next hour, or maybe the next few days, would determine the course of our family. And as the silence settled, I whispered softly to my son, "We face it together, honey. Whatever comes, we face it honestly, and we let the truth guide us." I could feel the tension in the room snapping tighter with every passing second, like a taut wire about to break, vibrating with a quiet, dangerous hum. My son's hands were clenched at his sides, jaw tight, and Clara's posture betrayed a brittle, fragile calm that seemed ready to shatter with the slightest touch. A soft, trembling sigh escaped me, barely audible as I tried to brace myself for what was coming next. The air felt heavy, suffused with unspoken truths, anger, and the pain of betrayal stretching invisible threads between us. "You need to start at the beginning," my son said, voice steady yet edged with unmistakable tension. "Everything. Every lie, every choice, every secret you kept from us. No omissions, no excuses, no hiding." Clara swallowed, a faint tremor escaping her lips. Her eyes darted toward me for a brief moment, silently pleading for some sort of mercy, and I gave her a solemn nod. There was no mercy here, not now. Honesty was the only path forward, and we were all teetering on the edge of a truth too heavy to ignore. I don't even know if I can remember it all," she whispered, voice cracking slightly as she glanced down at her clasped hands. "It's been so long, and I only wanted to keep things from escalating, to keep peace. I never wanted to hurt anyone." "Peace?" My son's voice sharpened, a mixture of disbelief and anger threading through his words. "By taking from your mother, by keeping her in the dark, by reshaping reality to fit your narrative? That's not peace, Clara. That's manipulation, that's control." A low, almost involuntary sigh escaped me, trembling with the effort to maintain calm. I could feel the air thickening, the tension vibrating through the walls as though the house itself were holding its breath, waiting to see how this confrontation would unfold. Every word, every pause, every trembling gesture carried the weight of years spent hiding behind calculated lies. I thought I was protecting you," Clara continued, her voice now almost a whisper, hands twisting nervously in front of her. "I thought if I managed things, if I kept certain truths hidden, everything would stay easier. I didn't think anyone would find out. I thought I was preventing conflict." "But we did," my son said softly, the tremor in his voice barely masking the sharp edge of disbelief. "And now you have to face it, all of it. Every choice, every deception, every moment where you decided the truth wasn't for us. We need to know what was real and what was fabricated." Clara's eyes flicked to mine again, that faint hum of hesitation threading through her lips. I could see the cracks forming in her carefully maintained facade, the subtle tremors of guilt, fear, and shame. I'll try, she whispered, her voice shaking. I'll tell you everything. Please just try to understand why I thought I was helping, why I thought this was best. Helping doesn't mean hurting, my son said firmly, voice rising with quiet intensity. Helping doesn't mean hiding, stealing, or twisting reality to suit your own plans. You controlled our lives without asking, and now we have to decide what comes next. The truth, Clara, is all that matters. A soft sigh escaped me, almost inaudible, trembling as I watched them, the two people I loved most, caught in a storm of betrayal, searching for clarity amidst chaos. My son's gaze was sharp, piercing, but laced with the sorrow of someone who had loved blindly and been deceived in return. Clara's trembling hands and downcast eyes spoke volumes, a silent acknowledgement of the fractures she had created. I thought it was best for everyone, Clara said, voice barely above a whisper, but I realize now how wrong I was. I didn't mean for it to reach this point. I only wanted to control things to make life smoother for all of us. Smooth, my son repeated incredulously. You call this smooth? My perception of family, of trust, of my mother was warped for years. This isn't smooth, it's manipulation. And now we have to face the consequences of every choice you made. I let out a soft, trembling hum, feeling the tension tighten in my chest like a knot. The audacity, the manipulation, the carefully spun web of lies, it was all revealed, raw and painful, yet oddly liberating. For the first time in years, we were confronting the truth head-on, and the road ahead, though uncertain, offered a glimmer of clarity. I thought I was helping, Clara repeated, voice breaking, but I see now that I only caused harm. I never wanted this, I never wanted to hurt anyone. But you did, my son said quietly, though his voice carried the weight of finality. And now we have to deal with it. Intentions don't erase consequences. We need the full story, the complete picture of every decision, every lie, every hidden detail before we can even think about the next step. A faint sigh escaped me as I watched him. He wasn't just confronting her for himself. He was speaking for me too, for the mother who had suffered quietly, endured silently, and finally had the courage to face the truth. The room was silent, save for our breathing, and the tension was almost tangible, coiling in the corners like a living thing. I will tell you, Clara whispered finally, tears glistening in her eyes. Every single detail. Every choice, every moment I thought I was right. Please believe me when I say I never wanted it to hurt anyone. And now you see the harm, my son said softly, voice taut with emotion. And now we have to face it together. Every lie, every omission, that's the only way to move forward. Honesty, Clara, no exceptions. I felt a soft, trembling sigh escape me. The confrontation had reached a pivotal point and the full reckoning was inevitable. Every hidden truth, every carefully concealed deception, and every manipulated moment would have to be confronted before healing could even begin. The path ahead was unclear, heavy with pain, but at least now it was illuminated by the harsh light of truth. And as I stood there, chest tight, heart heavy, I whispered softly to my son, "We face it together, honey. Whatever comes, we face it honestly, and we let the truth guide us." The moment Clara began speaking, the room seemed to hold its breath. "It started with small things," she whispered, voice cracking, hands twisting nervously. "Little omissions, little adjustments. I thought they were harmless. But one lie led to another, and before I knew it, everything spiraled out of control." My son's eyes narrowed, a storm of disbelief and hurt flickering across his face. "Everything?" he asked, voice taut. "You mean my understanding of our family, of my own mother, all of it was shaped by your lies?" "Yes," she admitted softly, trembling. "I thought I was helping. I didn't want conflict. I thought keeping things hidden would make life easier. But I was wrong, so very wrong." A low, almost involuntary hum escaped me. I could feel the weight of years pressing down on my chest. The betrayal was sharp, yes, but what stung most was the quiet, methodical way she had manipulated us. Carefully, subtly, leaving nearly no trace of her interference until it became impossible to ignore. My son paced the room, voice rising slightly in frustration and heartbreak. "Do you even understand what you've done? The trust you've destroyed? The way you've made me question every interaction with Mom. Clara swallowed, a faint whimper escaping her as she looked down. I see it now. I realize the pain I've caused. I never wanted to hurt anyone, truly. I thought I was protecting you, protecting Mom. I didn't understand how much control I was exerting. You were exerting control, I said quietly, voice trembling with restrained emotion. Not protection. You made choices for us that were never yours to make. You kept secrets that weren't yours to keep. And now we are left to pick up the pieces. A soft, almost pained sigh escaped my son as he ran a hand through his hair. I trusted you, I trusted both of you, and I feel like I've been living in a shadow of deception all these years. And Mom, she never got what was hers. She never got to be treated with the respect she earned. Clara's lips trembled. I didn't see it that way. I thought I was sparing her, sparing everyone from conflict, from hardship. I didn't realize how much damage I was causing beneath the surface. My heart ached for both of them, but more for myself, for the countless moments I had been left questioning my own worth, wondering if I had failed my son, if I had somehow missed the signs. A low, trembling hum escaped me, a quiet expression of grief that words could not capture. You didn't just manipulate me, my son continued, voice heavy with emotion. You tried to manipulate her too. You took the money she should have had, the recognition she deserved, and replaced it with your version of reality. I thought I was doing the right thing, Clara whispered, voice cracking, hands shaking visibly. I never imagined it would hurt this much, that the damage would run this deep. But it did, I said softly, tears prickling at the corners of my eyes. And now we have to deal with it. There's no going back. The choices you made, Clara, the lies, the deception, it all has consequences. My son's eyes glistened as he faced her. Do you understand what that means for our family, for Mom, for me? Trust isn't something that can be rebuilt overnight. It takes time, it takes accountability, and it takes the truth, all of it. Clara nodded, swallowing hard. I understand. I will tell you everything, every choice, every moment. I'll lay it all out so there's nothing left hidden. I let out a soft sigh, the tension in my shoulders easing just slightly. Even in the midst of betrayal and heartbreak, there was a fragile flicker of hope. Hope that honesty might begin to heal the deep wounds that had festered for years. My intention was never to hurt anyone, Clara continued, her voice barely above a whisper. I thought I was protecting you, protecting Mom, protecting our family. I see now how wrong I was. I see how much pain I've caused. Intentions don't erase actions, my son said quietly, though his voice carried the weight of every shattered moment. We need clarity, we need honesty, and we need the full story. Only then can we even think about what comes next. A soft, trembling hum escaped me as I watched them. My son wasn't just confronting Clara for himself. He was speaking for me, for the mother who had endured silently, who had given her heart freely, and who had been denied the respect and love she deserved. The room was thick with emotion, every breath, every pause, every word heavy with years of unspoken truths. Clara took a deep, shaky breath, hands clasped tightly together. I will tell you everything, every detail, every lie, every manipulation. Please understand that I never intended to harm anyone. I thought I was protecting. And now you understand the damage, my son said softly, voice steady but heavy. And now we face it, all of it, together, no more hiding, no more half-truths. The truth is the only path forward. I felt a soft sigh escape me, trembling as I realized the enormity of what was happening. Every hidden truth, every carefully concealed lie, every manipulated moment, everything would have to be exposed before any hope of healing could exist. The reckoning had arrived, and there was no turning back. The room was quiet, the weight of confrontation pressing down like a physical presence. I glanced at my son, saw the pain and determination etched into every line of his face. And I knew in that instant that whatever came next, we would face it together, guided by the truth that could no longer be denied. Clara's voice trembled as she prepared to speak again, finally ready to reveal the full story. And I realized, as I drew in a shaky breath, that nothing in our family would ever be the same again. The lies had been unearthed. The truth would be spoken. And our lives were poised at the edge of transformation, teetering between devastation and redemption. The air in the room felt almost too thick to breathe. Every word Clara had spoken hung between us like a fragile thread, trembling but unbroken, ready to snap at the slightest pressure. I could hear the soft hum of my own heartbeat, a low, steady reminder that life continued even when the world seemed to be collapsing. My son's face was etched with a mixture of anger, confusion, and deep, lingering sadness. And Clara, she looked small, vulnerable, almost fragile under the weight of the truths she could no longer avoid. "You need to tell me everything," my son said firmly, voice trembling slightly despite the attempt to keep it calm. "Every single choice, every lie, every decision you made that impacted my mother, my family, and me. I need to know the whole story. No omissions, no excuses." Clara swallowed, hands trembling, and a faint, quivering hum escaped her. I don't know if I can. It's been so long, and I thought I was protecting everyone. I thought it would make life easier." "Protecting?" he repeated sharply, stepping closer, eyes narrowed. "By hiding money from your mother. By controlling what she could know, by shaping my perception of her without her knowing the truth." Her lips trembled, and she looked at me with wide, pleading eyes. I didn't see it that way at the time. I thought I was helping. I never meant to hurt anyone." "But you did," my son said quietly, the weight of his words hanging in the air. "And now we have to face it. Every lie, every omission, every carefully calculated move. The truth is the only path forward, Clara. It's the only way we can even think about what comes next." I let out a low, trembling sigh, trying to steady myself. The room felt charged, every glance, every breath heavy with the unsaid, the unresolved. My son's gaze flicked to me, a silent acknowledgement that I had suffered as well, that I had endured quietly while deception unfolded around me. And yet, even with the hurt and betrayal, there was a flicker of something else, a fragile glimmer of hope that maybe honesty could start to heal the fractures in our family. I'll tell you everything," Clara said softly, voice quivering. "Every lie, every manipulation, every time I thought I was helping. Please understand, I never intended to cause this much pain." "Intentions don't erase consequences," my son replied, voice low, steady, but heavy with emotion. "The impact matters, Clara, and the impact has been real. It's time to face it, all of it." A soft hum escaped me, trembling and almost reluctant. The confrontation had reached a crucial point, yet the full story had not been revealed. Every secret, every deception, every calculated lie still lingered in the shadows, waiting to be brought into the light. The room felt almost suspended in time, caught between past betrayals and the uncertain future. Clara nodded slowly, trembling visibly. "I understand. I will tell you everything. I'll lay it all out so there's nothing left hidden. I don't know if I can fully explain the why. But I'll try." "You will try," my son said quietly, eyes glistening. "And we will listen. Every detail matters, and only then will we decide what this family looks like going forward." I could feel a soft, shaky sigh escape me as I watched them, the two people I loved most, caught in a storm of emotion and revelation. The air was thick with tension, yet there was also an odd sense of fragile possibility. The confrontation had begun, and while the truths had not all been revealed, the moment had arrived where honesty would start to shape the path ahead. I never imagined it would come to this," Clara whispered, voice barely audible. "I never wanted to hurt anyone. I thought keeping things hidden was best for everyone." "And now we know it wasn't," my son said quietly. "Now we have to confront it. Every moment, every choice, every lie. The consequences are real, Clara, and so is the truth. We'll face it together." I felt a low hum escape me as I stepped closer, placing my hand briefly on my son's shoulder. "Honey, we'll face this together. Whatever comes, we face it honestly and we let the truth guide us. No matter how painful it may be, no matter how long it takes, we face it as a family." Clara's eyes flicked nervously to mine. I hope I can make it right." "Hope alone won't fix this," my son said quietly, voice tight with emotion. "But truth can, and we're going to hear it all, nothing left hidden. Only then can we decide what comes next." A soft, trembling sigh escaped me, almost a whisper, as I realized that the family I had known for decades was on the brink of transformation. The past could no longer remain buried. The lies, the manipulation, the deception, it all needed to come to light before any healing could begin. And even as Clara prepared to speak, I felt a knot of fear and anticipation twist in my chest. What would the full truth reveal? Could our family survive it? Could trust, so long eroded, ever be rebuilt? The room was silent, save for the quiet hum of our breathing and the distant ticking of a clock that seemed impossibly loud. Every word that Clara would say next carried the weight of years of hidden pain, and yet none of it had been revealed. The story, the reckoning, was only beginning. The next chapter of our lives, fragile and uncertain, waited in the silence. And as I stood there, heart heavy but resolute, I realized we were on the edge of a precipice. The truth would fall, and when it did, nothing would be the same. Clara's hands shook as she took a deep breath, the room silent but for the faint hum of our combined tension. I'll tell everything, she whispered, voice cracking. From the beginning, every choice, every lie, every time I thought I was protecting, I didn't see how much damage I caused until now. My son's eyes glistened with a mix of hurt and determination. Then speak, every word matters, no excuses, no hiding. Clara hesitated, and in that instant I felt a pang of sorrow, not for her, but for all of us. How could a single life so meticulously woven with deception impact years of trust and love? How had we reached this point, standing together yet fractured, each heartbeat echoing the weight of unspoken truths? I started small, Clara began, voice trembling. The money, the gifts, I told him I sent $5,000 a month, but I never did. I thought if I gave him the illusion that you were being taken care of, that it would keep him close, keep everyone content. I didn't want him to question me, I didn't want conflict. But it spiraled, I lied again, then again, and soon there was no stopping it. A soft, low hum escaped me, almost a sigh of disbelief. The audacity, the meticulous control, the endless manipulation, it was all laid bare, raw, and suffocating. Yet, for the first time, the truth was out. The lies could no longer hide in the shadows. You knew I never received a penny, I said quietly, voice trembling with a mixture of sorrow and restrained anger. And you still let him believe I was being taken care of. You let him think I didn't need to fight or ask while you controlled everything? Clara's lips trembled. I thought I was helping. I didn't realize how wrong I was, how much I was hurting all of you. My son shook his head slowly, voice low but firm. Helping? You manipulated, you lied, and you tried to control everything in our lives. That isn't helping, that's betrayal, pure and simple. And now we have to rebuild everything from the ground up. A soft, trembling sigh escaped me. The truth was heavy, unbearable in some moments, yet strangely liberating. For years, I had questioned myself, my worth, my place in my own family. And now, the truth, painful as it was, had lifted the veil of confusion and deceit. I understand, Clara said quietly, tears streaming down her face. I see the pain I caused. I never meant to hurt anyone. I just thought I was protecting the family. But protection doesn't come from deception, my son said softly but pointedly. It comes from honesty, from respect, from letting the people you love make their own choices and their own mistakes. You took that from us, from me, from my mother, and now we decide what comes next. I could feel my chest tightening, a low hum threading through me, a mixture of grief and resolve. The confrontation had lasted hours, each revelation a jagged slice of truth, each confession a bridge toward clarity. And yet there was a strange calm settling over the room, fragile but undeniable. Mom, my son said quietly, voice almost breaking, I am so sorry for everything you went through. For every time you were deceived, every moment you were left out of the truth. I see it now, all of it. And I want you to know I will not let this continue. You are my mother, you deserve better than lies and manipulation. I felt tears prick at the corners of my eyes, a soft, trembling sigh escaping me as I reached for his hand. Honey, thank you, that means more than you'll ever know. For years I've been quiet, patient, hoping for honesty, and now we have a chance to set things right. Clara's voice broke again, a faint whimper threading through her words. I am so sorry. I don't deserve forgiveness, but I will do whatever I can to make this right. Forgiveness takes time, my son said softly, but honesty is the first step. And if you are truly committed to it, then maybe, just maybe, some healing can begin. A soft, trembling sigh escaped me. The air felt lighter, though still weighted with the remnants of betrayal. For the first time in years, I felt a spark of hope that perhaps we could rebuild what had been broken, brick by fragile brick, guided by the truth that had finally been spoken aloud. I will tell everything, Clara whispered again, nodding solemnly. No more lies, no more half-truths. I will answer every question, every doubt you have, and I will let the truth guide us. My son exhaled, a low hum of relief threading through him. Then we begin, one step at a time, one truth at a time, and we will see if our family can survive this, if trust can be rebuilt. I reached out to Clara, placing my hand on hers briefly, a gesture of cautious reconciliation. It will be hard, the road ahead will not be easy, but the truth is what will guide us. And for the first time, I feel like we might have a chance. She nodded, a trembling, quiet acknowledgement, and I realized in that moment that while nothing would ever erase the past, the revelation of truth had opened the door to healing. The journey ahead was uncertain, fragile, and long, but at least it was now rooted in honesty. And as I looked at my son, tears glistening in his eyes, I felt a deep, unspoken understanding pass between us. Whatever pain had been caused, whatever lies had been told, we were together. And that, perhaps, was enough to begin mending the fractures that had haunted our family for far too long. If this story touched your heart, share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear where you're watching from. Every comment feels like we're taking this journey together. And don't forget to hit the like button so more people can hear this story. If you want to hear more real-life family stories, subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a moment.